studios for another edition of Beat the Bookie. Chloe Smarz joining you here with potential to be Beat the Bookie's Rookie of the Year better. To be quite honest, my knowledge of sports betting is slim, or rather not, non-existent. But if there's one thing I know, your girl loves to spend some money. Just ask my mother. So proceed with caution taking my advice for betting in this week of college football. But then again, never doubt the underdog. Before we get into my picks, let's take a look at how my no-poll partner, Mr. College Basketball himself, Carson Fowler, did last week. Not too shabby, my friend, totaling a little over $45 in profit. Hate to give credit to the guy, but maybe he does know a thing or two about sports betting. A perfect 3 for 3 on his big game bets and 2 for 3 on college basketball. I have some big shoes to fill. 3 straight weeks of profit over 25 bucks. Attaboy Carson for bringing in the dollars. How does Mr. Fowler stack up to the rest of the competition this semester? Our standings have Austin Barrick still at the top of the leaderboard with nearly $105 profit, followed by Skylar Wilkes, Sean Dempsey, our executive producer Jordan Leonard, and Mr. News Jake Morrell, all staying in the positives. Can I get this crew to a $250 profit on the semester? Cue the music, cue the money, cue the big games.
Jerry, you better yell! Show me the money! Show me the money!
We begin in the SEC. Number 6 Tennessee travels to number 11 Georgia as a 9.5-point road underdog following the Bulldogs' loss to Ole Miss. As a first-time sports bettor, this doesn't quite make much sense to me. Hopefully, Vegas knows something that UGA fans don't, because there's no way that an average sports fan can fully understand this. Sir, there are questions on if Tennessee's starting quarterback will play due to concussion protocol. But Georgia has struggled to control the line of scrimmage, only 59 rushing yards on the day against the Rebels. It's clear that the injury to running back Travis Etienne has led to the downfall of this downfield passing game. It's predictable, it's defendable, and we saw that down in Oxford. I said this on No Poll. Until a team not named Alabama beats Georgia, I was going to ride the dogs all the way to the Natty. Well, Ole Miss had different plans and showed me that UGA is not the almighty Avengers teams that I once believed. I've always been a go big or go home type of person. So give me 15 bucks on Tennessee plus 12.5 to beat up on the dogs. Carson Beck is no longer the first-round draft pick experts suggested. Draft stock continues to drop as weeks go on, and so will UGA's chances at a college football playoff appearance. Next, to the ACC we go. Another battle of 7-2 teams, number 17 Clemson at Pitt. The Tigers are facing what has suddenly become their biggest game of the season, and for Pitt, it's worth keeping an eye on the status of Panthers quarterback Eli Holstein, who was knocked out in their loss versus Virginia with a head injury, and his status for this weekend appears to be somewhat in doubt. It seems like the idea of Pitt being 7-0 and ranked in the top 25 is a faint memory. They were tripped up to SMU on November 2nd and lost to Virginia at home, despite being a 7.5-point favorite. Head coach Pat Narduzzi called this week's game the biggest test of the season for Pitt thus far. But it's a Clemson team that picked up a 24-14 win at Lane Stadium against Virginia Tech, covering 5.5 points and as the under cashed too. Sure, the offense has taken a step back in the past 2 games, averaging just 22.5 points. But the defense has allowed 14 or fewer points in the last 4 of their 6 outings. Clemson has steadily improved as the season has gone on, and despite this being a road game, Pitt's questions at quarterback don't make me feel so great. There are many reasons to believe that Pitt keeps this within single digits. 10 bucks on Clemson, minus 10.5 to keep them in the top half of the ACC. And for our last big game of the week, we return to the conference that just means more. Number 24 Mizzou at number 23 South Carolina. The Gamecocks come into this matchup 12.5-point favorites over the Tigers. And I've said this on No Poll, and I'll say it here again. Mizzou is one of the biggest jokes, most overrated, and frustrating teams in the SEC. The fact that they are still even ranked within the AP Top 25 blows my mind. Nearly upset by Vandy, blown out by Bama and A&M. And I don't really care that they came away with the win over Oklahoma. Because when you look at this Tigers team, they have handled the very bad teams, but every win against a lower-level Power 4 team has been a grind, and every loss has been non-competitive. On top of the fact that the quarterback issues throughout the season have resulted in an offense that is 70s in scoring offense and ranked in 90s in yards per play. The Gamecocks are in a very good place after taking care of Vandy. Quarterback Lenora Sellers each week seems to be taking a step forward. Against the Commodores, he connected on 70% of his passes. He's starting to show calm leadership and more mastery of everything this offense can do for him. I believe so strongly that Mizzou will once again show that they are the biggest fraud in the nation. Give me 15 on South Carolina, minus 12.5 at home against Missouri. and to the C-suite to see how my picks stack up to our producers. Clearly not too good for me, considering 19-11 and 14-16 compared to the C-suite. UGA, interesting pick. They haven't looked too great, guys, but we're agreeing on Clemson, and Mizzou is a joke. Jordan, I do not agree with that at all, and I love the Bob Costas photo of me. That is fabulous. Let's get into my best bets of the week. First up, number 3 ranked Texas against Arkansas. The Razorbacks have been a hot and cold team thus far. They sit at 5-4 on the year with their most impressive win coming against Tennessee. But just when you think the Razorbacks can compete, hang around in some of the bigger games in the SEC, we watched the game last week against Mississippi, and oh boy, what a disaster. Razorbacks allowed 63 points and nearly 700 yards of total offense. Ole Miss blew the doors off the pig pen with a 63-31 victory. The Rebels quarterback Jackson Dart was throwing, what else? Darts for 515 yards with 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Just think about what Quinn Ewers is going to do to the Hogs, especially coming off of a 5-touchdown performance against Texas. Texas has covered 7 of their last 9 as double-digit favorites, but the Razorbacks have covered 5 of their last 6 as double-digit underdogs. So which way are we going to turn? Arkansas coach Pittman compared his team to a Walmart blue light special and called the Ole Miss players Louis Vuitton guys. So if Mississippi is Vuitton, then Texas is Gucci. Give me Gucci, $10 on Texas, minus 13.5 in this one to keep them atop the SEC. To the Friday Night Lights game, Wyoming at Colorado State. Wyoming continues to undergo some changes throughout the season, and I believe that out of a bye week, the Cowboys can continue to improve its play. With the running back Harrison Whaley back, and to aid starting quarterback Caden Anderson, who passed for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns against New Mexico. The Cowboys offense may be trending in the upward in the end of the season, but Colorado State's defense has been able to feast off turnovers and limiting explosive plays. But the defense gets little pressure and is outside the top 100 in success rate. Against a healthier team in Wyoming, I believe this team is due for some regression on defense and allow more points than expected. However, Colorado State's offense should be able to move the ball with relative ease, as Monroe should be in the line for a big day on the ground game. Wyoming has allowed 24 or more points in conference play to every team that isn't Air Force, the worst team in the league. So I believe that Colorado State should have a little issue generating scoring chances. I'm putting $10 on the over 46.5 in Colorado State over Wyoming for a chance for the Rams to make a push in the Mountain West Championship game. And for my final best bet this week, we go to number 25 Tulane at Navy. Tulane, one of the best teams in the Group 5 in my opinion, and this team gets an opportunity to showcase its upside on Saturday against a Navy team that is just trending in the wrong direction. The midshipmen have dropped 2 of their last 3 in the team's last week against South Florida. It was slightly outgained despite the 28-7 scoreline. Navy has faced 2 offenses inside the top 50 nationally in expected points allowed in Notre Dame and Memphis, and allowed 51 and 44 points respectively. The Green Wave has allowed a ton of firepower on offense, ranking 9th in expected points allowed. I envision this game just getting away from the middies quickly. The Green Wave have scored very well this season, sitting 4th in the nation in points per game. They have won 7 games in a row since week 3, covering the spread in 6 of those contests. These 2 teams are in 2 different classes, and while Navy was a good story, Tulane is about to be a bigger one down the stretch of the season. Give me $10 on Tulane, minus 6.5 over this Navy this weekend. And for my future pick, as the college football season heads into the final weeks of the regular season, there's only 4 teams that remain unbeaten: Oregon, BYU, and Army, and of course, the turnaround team of the year in Indiana. What head coach Curt Cignetti has done to this Hoosier program is remarkable. Add on to the fact that he's a straight dog. Old school style coach who says what he feels and acts on it. I'll admit it, I was a bit skeptical over the hype around this team. We all know their schedule isn't that strong, but you can't change the cards you were dealt. The Hoosiers' biggest game of the year comes in 2 weeks against Ohio State. And if there's one thing you guys need to know about me, I hate Penn State, and I cannot stand Ohio State. Ryan Day has choked every single season in his time at Columbus, and in my eyes, the Buckeyes have yet to play a complete game of football. Arguably their most promising game I saw from them was OSU's loss to Oregon. The play calling can be soft, the offensive line struggles, and their secondary is mid. Ohio State will be favored, but I don't care. There's something so special about Indiana this season, and I love a success story. Get through the Buckeyes and finish off the season against Purdue. Give me a whopping $15 on Indiana, plus 340 to finish their season undefeated. Let's take a look at the other bookies' future picks to this point in the season. And you gotta laugh at Jake Morrell's pick at the Bears winning the Super Bowl. The Caleb Williams era in the Windy City has been off to one of the worst starts that we've ever seen for such a hyped up quarterback. And they lost to my trash team Patriots, so that should tell you enough on that. I like Skylar and Andrew's pick on BYU and Boise State making the college football playoffs. Aston Genty is the real deal, my pick to win the Heisman. And I also have to shout out our executive producer, Jordan Leonard, picking the home team Rutgers to win the Big Ten. There's no greater state in this country that produces pork roll and fist pumping, and the best duo in college football, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey out there in East Brunswick. Big things to come for the Scarlet Knights. That's probably my favorite pick on this list. Now for my three-part parlay. I said at the top of the show, I don't ever sports bet, don't plan on it, and never have. And after the show, well, maybe I'll consider it if I get lucky. But me and luck tend to not go well together. So let's take this with a grain of salt, and we're sticking here with college football to wrap up some of my bets. First up in my parlay, two former Pac-12 teams meet in the Big Ten. UCLA at Washington. The Bruins have been hot as of late. Winners of their past 3 games, including road contests at Rutgers and at Nebraska, as well as a shocking 2017 win over Iowa in the Rose Bowl this past Saturday. While the Huskies are finding life to be a little tough in a part of the Big Ten, the Huskies were manhandled in the whiteout game at Penn State this past weekend and has losses at Indiana and at Iowa since October 12th too. The only win was a 26-21 win against USC, another former Pac-12 member. This is a Washington team which stacked up a lot of wins early in the season, but has been playing poorly as of late. UCLA is red hot and is the team to back here and perhaps looks to make a big dip push towards the end of the season. Give me UCLA to win outright plus 138 in the money line over Washington. Next up to the Virginia Cavaliers traveling to South Bend to take on number 8 ranked Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish are a hot team in search of a playoff spot and playing their last home game of the regular season. They have every motivation to play well and keep their foot on the gas for 60 minutes. Notre Dame is number 12 in scoring in the country in scoring offenses, putting up nearly 40 points per game compared to the Cavaliers team who put up just 25 points per game and ranks 83rd in the country in scoring offense. Not knocking Tony Elliott because he has solidified his job standing this season, but his Cavaliers might be outmanned here. It wasn't the fact that Notre Dame won last week, but it was how they won against a bad Florida State team. But Notre Dame beat them by 49 points, which was Florida State's worst loss of the season. Once again, Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard has made some progresses in this passing game, has completed 4 passes for over 20 yards. I expect that to continue. Notre Dame is 5-0 in their last 5 games against an ACC opponent. I'm taking Notre Dame in the over 50.5 against Virginia. And for my final part of this parlay, we continue in the ACC with Boston College at number 14 SMU. Now, BC might have topped Syracuse this past weekend, but it didn't come without struggles. They benched their starting quarterback for Grayson James, and Bill O'Brien's squad has to prepare for ACC's powerhouse, just as we all expected, by the way. SMU top of the ACC is wild. But the recipe for success outside of their win against Pittsburgh has not been to blow out teams early and coast to a blowout win. Instead, the Mustangs have outlasted a lot of their opponents, using their depth in a variety of ways. They succeeded on offense to win late in games. SMU has been excellent at preventing both the big play and limiting teams in the red zone. I ultimately think that's going to be the difference. SMU doesn't typically win big against the spread, but something about playing at home has me feeling a little bit different. The Eagles will keep it close, but SMU should win it all in the areas that it matters. So give me SMU minus 18.5 over Boston College down in Dallas. $15 with potential to make $115.10. We'll see if that profit stands. Now let's recap all of my picks from today. So our big game bets, $15 on Tennessee plus 10.5 to beat Georgia. I got 10 on Clemson minus 10.5 over Pitt. 15 on South Carolina minus 12.5 against Mizzou, biggest fraud in the SEC, by the way. And for my personal picks, $10 on Texas minus 13.5 over Arkansas. And then I got $10 on Colorado State over 46.5 versus Wyoming, and $10 on Tulane minus 6.5 over Navy. Future pick, $15 on Indiana to be undefeated in the regular season plus 340. For our 3-part parlay, we got $15 in total. UCLA plus 380 in the money line over Washington. Notre Dame over 50.5 against Virginia, and SMU minus 18.5 over Boston College. And that does it for this episode of Beat the Bookie. Only time will tell to see if Jordan Leonard made the right call allowing me to be on this show, to trying new things and to looking to get more rich. For myself and the entire Beat the Bookie crew, saying so long and enjoy a great slate of games this weekend.